Chainsaw Man saves cat against giant cockroach. Public eye is decisive about who or what the intention of Chainsaw Man is. Poor boy Dennis is doing this all for people to find out that he is indeed the Chainsaw Man. We were all wrong. Greetings. Absolutely love this chapter through and through. It's different, it's a change of pace, and it fits perfectly within Chainsaw Man Part 2. Honestly, I don't think you could have a chapter like this elsewhere. When I say elsewhere, I also mean Weekly Shonen Jump, specifically where Chainsaw Man was, because of how slow and kind of methodical it is. It's a really straightforward and simplistic chapter just based on conversations and emotions and two characters kind of talking. That's it. And for what Chainsaw Man was originally built to be within Weekly Shonen Jump being a battle manga, something like this probably wouldn't fly. I think people would appreciate it, but I think it's valued a lot more with not only where the manga is currently, being in Jump Plus, but also the different direction that Fujimoto has taken. These chapters are a lot more slower. There is bits and pieces of action which are beautiful, just like Denji's introduction, but it all comes kind of full circle in some way, shape or form. And you get the biggest, brightest, fullest picture that you could actually imagine. You get the high octane action, the chaoticness, the goofiness, the silliness, but then you also get these sweet, subtle, and emotionally fueled moments that feel very personal. You're building characters and identities and reigniting what we love about them. For me, to put simply, a perfect introduction to Denji's character in the fullest of ways. Action, subtle character building, very intimate, very personal, very enjoyable, very good. This chapter also gives us a pretty great idea on the general reception of Chainsaw Man to the public eye. It's pretty different to what we had actually expected. I think there was always going to be that small pocket of people that disliked Chainsaw Man or feared him or was scared, but it's a lot more deep rooted. The general public surrounding Chainsaw Man's actions kind of pull him in a lot of different directions in bad aspects. Being a bad role model or taking jobs away, or some people are claiming him to be propaganda or fake, and alongside the standard monster allegation. So there is people that worry about him in a much bigger picture rather than just being fearful, which I find rather interesting. I didn't think we would get such a clear, precise kind of example of it, but it's very simply thrown in here and it gives you every viewpoint for it. On top of that, you get people that really love Chainsaw Man, and I think the clear divide between this is maybe by age. It seems a lot of younger people are a lot more open to Chainsaw Man regarding his chaoticness and how brutal he can be, but quirky and humorous and just kind of all over the place. And the younger generation really love that, and they hype him up, they get him excited, they absolutely adore and love him, and this is something that obviously he seeks, which is funny because he ends up implementing himself within these interviews. So everyone's getting asked these questions, giving their opinion on Chainsaw Man, and then Denji himself walks in and basically provides answers to the statements provided by those people. You can link him up pretty easily as he's just speaking through Denji at this point as Chainsaw Man, saying that he's a good person and hyping himself up, and people shouldn't fear him but love him, and even tries to hand out his actual number until he gets cut off. But they start praising him, they start adoring him, and he's within the vicinity and he loves it. And you can see it perfectly on his face. This beautiful grin of being admired and appreciated, which, mind you, he's never had before. This feeling, even though it's celebrity status, is something that I think he takes very seriously because obviously his past hasn't been the kindest to him. It's filled with a lot of hardships and a lot of trauma, and specifically being alone. Which brings me to the first biggest thing for this chapter that stands out to me is that it feels off. Something doesn't feel right about this chapter, nor with Denji specifically, and not in the bad quote-unquote writing way, but more so it's purposeful. That there's more to this situation, that there's more to Denji, and that it's a little bit desperate. Almost like he's seeking that attention wholeheartedly, not just out of the pure intention of wanting to be loved or appreciated, but because he's lonely, because he doesn't have power or Aki to balance him out, or even Makima, for example. We haven't seen Naruto as of yet, and that more so comes in as a fatherly / older brother role, so the wants that he has doesn't actually get fulfilled. And a lot of that is expressed through Chainsaw Man because he knows he can get it that way. This can easily trail on into another conversation in regards to him becoming more whole and being more accepting of the idea of Chainsaw Man. They've always kind of been split apart throughout the story, being two different sides of himself, but now it seems like he's understanding and accepting himself on both the Denji side but also his Chainsaw Man side, and they're really just combining to create a fuller picture while he learns and heals and understands the world and himself wholeheartedly. You see this very clearly with the conversation that he has with Yoshida. They go to a cafe and obviously Denji orders everything on the menu pretty much. He's absolutely starving. He doesn't have that much money, but we find out a good amount of important things. One, he's not working with Kishibe from what we know. Two, he's completely alone corporate-wise, so he's not in touch with anyone else corporately. He's not working with different devil hunting groups or anything like we originally thought or what I originally thought. He's not connected to Yoshida at all, and he's kind of just living his life doing his own thing with no motive other than personal interest. This is a lot different to what I expected. I thought that Kishibe, which still could be a thing lurking in the background, but that Kishibe would keep an eye on Denji because obviously he has no one now. He's a very powerful devil that can erase people from existence, and he's also taking care of the new control devil. You would think that Kishibe would do that, but he's also very unpredictable, and that old man does whatever he wants. But no organization, no funding, no help, no aid, just letting him out there into the world, taking care of a child, but also being a child himself. That's rough. That's very brutal. This is why Yoshida is here, funny enough. He's part of an organization that is meant to watch over Denji and provide him a peaceful lifestyle. Oddly similar to the Makima situation, just without the overall alluring control that she had. The caveat to it, however, is that Denji can't transform into Chainsaw Man, so he has to go against his personal interest, his core identity and his being, so he can be provided with a lifestyle, food, money, comfort, etc. And I think it starts to bridge that connection of materialistic things to personal wants and needs. Beginning of the story makes it very clear what Denji wants. He's gone through the hardships, he's gone through all of these things, and he wants to have the bare minimum, which obviously he deserves. But now it's kind of symbolically and even thematically rotating in a full circle to meet us back at the original point. He's being challenged. Either you stop doing what you're doing out of personal gain and we'll provide you with these things, or, as Yoshida puts it very kindly, I won't give you this food, which could easily equate to trying to kill Denji or not provide for a lifestyle or help him out. So they could easily just be enemies. As simple-minded Denji can be sometimes, I think he picks up on this, because he even questions, what are you gonna do? Like any of these people would have a chance against Chainsaw Man, so there may be a bit of conflict brewing there. But the funniest thing about this chapter, right, to really drive home the point of Denji's identity and what he desires, is that he confirms to Yoshida the reason why he becomes Chainsaw Man is because he wants people to find out. He wants people to know that Denji is Chainsaw Man and be loved, be appreciated, be wanted by people. And he says this so happily, so carefree, so gleefully, that Yoshida is just stunned. He doesn't know what to do. He has no words for it. He has no ifs or buts or maybes against his organization's wants. He just sits there, speechless. I love the final panel of this chapter, specifically because right in the middle of both of them is a picture of a caged bird. You could go on endlessly about symbolism and ulterior meanings and this and that, which is fine and dandy, it's entirely up to you. But for me, I think this embodies Denji really well. He is kind of a caged bird, and you could even argue that Yoshida is the cage that's surrounding him currently with this organization. Stop being Chainsaw Man, or we will have to kill you or not supply you with the food and money and things that you might want. And it's also a personal conflict with Denji. He wants all of these nice things, but he also wants to be loved and appreciated on a humanly level for what he is, for who he is. And that's always been a massive core theme. He wants to be seen. Obviously, there's a bit of unresolved or unhealed trauma that has sparked from Makima specifically, and just the way he navigates through this chapter feels like a kind of a clear indication of it. It's murky, but at least it's somewhat clear with the approach that it could take, which I'm very interested in. This is why this chapter feels glazed over with this mystery, this off feeling that you might get, and on the surface, not a lot to gain from it. But you start to think more about this situation. You start to think more about Denji and what he was, where he came from, the things that he's lost. This is going to affect him constantly. And Yoshida is in here and kind of recognizes it himself. I don't think Yoshida is the big bad monster that maybe originally penned him up to be. He seemed coy and sly within the beginning, very mysterious, but he might actually be understanding towards Denji. At that age, with all of the the responsibilities, maybe Yoshida can relate a little bit, and that's just entirely hypothetical, but it could be a possibility and they could build some pretty nice connections. On the sad side, this also makes me believe that Denji has no one at school, no friends, no nothing, and is trying his best to get through it. And you can see him learning as well. He's trying to read off names from the menu, which I think is very adorable, because mind you, he's never been to school at all. He's never been within a social setting. He's never gone to school. He's never learned. So at his age, he has a younger mentality, personality, and emotional vulnerability than everyone else. This is something that has to be healed and learned and grown with, but also confronted and understood by himself in whatever way works for him. And I think we're starting to see the roots of all of that beautiful progression and character identity that he's had from part 1 start to bloom within this story. And the one person that we all know that I think is going to beautifully connect with him and understand him is Asa. They are very similar and they can fill the void that each other have. But I also think people like Yoshida and even Yuko, for example, could be really good friends to Denji. They could actually provide him the friendship that he's seeking and to be that stepping stone for him and to become something genuine over time. There's an endless amount of great things that can be done. Right now, we're just reigniting our vision and our understanding of Denji and just seeing how much he's learned and grown. He's come a long way. He deserves the things that he wants, but there's going to be hurdles and conflict in front of it. And it's going to clash with not only his understanding of the world, but himself. He'll come to learn this over time, and we'll see it explored in many different avenues, especially with Asa, and even the War Devil, and most likely Naruto as well. We have yet to see her. There's no chapter next week. Very sad about that, unfortunately, but we'll get one the week after. Anyway, I take my leave. Drink your water, subscribe, leave a like. I would appreciate it. Have a good day, night, whatever you may be doing. I appreciate you.